Well, I think that Boris Johnson has to understand there's a huge difference between lines, throwaway lines that are used in hustings or even in acceptance speeches, and grown-up negotiations that have to take place in Brussels on the future relationship between our country and the EU. So I think what we need to hear is not the rhetoric, but actually what is the plan going forward, and that plan cannot include the reckless idea of leaving without a deal.
Well, the argument, as you know, is that being prepared to leave without a deal is going to concentrate the minds of the other side and make them more likely to make the concessions that the UK wants.
Yeah, that was the theory that David Davis put forward, and Dominic Raab and Theresa May and Stephen Barclay. And in the end, we had an agreement signed off last November, and it's stuck in exactly the same place in the many months that have passed since then. So that theory hasn't worked. That was the mantra of Theresa May, my deal or no deal, and it didn't work. And it doesn't work for a pretty obvious reason. The idea that you get a better deal if you leave without a deal is for the birds, because unless you never ever want a trading relationship with the EU, you're going to have a deal at some stage, and that's going to involve a financial arrangement, something for citizens, transitional arrangements, and arrangements for Northern Ireland. So it simply doesn't work as a piece of logic or negotiating tactic.
I mean, the withdrawal deal also failed in Parliament because the opposition wouldn't back it. And isn't there a risk that you end up opposing yourselves into something worse, which is leaving without any agreement at all?
No, I don't think so, because what we said going into March of this year is that there's a majority in Parliament who won't allow us to leave without a deal, and we demonstrated that by passing legislation that effectively forced the Prime Minister in March, April to seek an extension, and we're determined to do it again. Last week we won a vote to stop Boris Johnson shutting down Parliament. That was won by 41 votes. As we go into September, I think that majority, that bloc, will hold. It'll probably actually get stronger when those that are resigning from the Cabinet make their positions clear on this as well. So the idea that Parliament between now and October the 31st isn't going to take action to stop Boris Johnson from recklessly taking us out without a deal, I think is wrong. We will take that opportunity and we will take whatever action is necessary.
Should Labour table a vote of confidence in this new government tomorrow so that we can have a vote before the summer recess?
Well, the question of whether there's a vote of confidence is obviously for the leader of the Labour Party, but I think at the moment it's fair to say our focus is on building that cross-party alliance of like-minded MPs who are determined to ensure that Boris Johnson is not able to carry out the reckless elements of the proposals that he's put forward. And that's why I've been spending time talking across the House of Commons to different MPs, and will continue to do so, because I think in the first instance that bloc has to be formed. There was an element of it last week that needs to be knitted more closely together and needs to be effective, certainly in September and October, to make sure we meet that deadline and have taken effective action by then.
So from your point of view, would you like there to be a vote of confidence this week?
I think a vote of confidence is best put when it's most likely to win, and that's a judgment call for the leader of the opposition, and Jeremy Corbyn will make that call. But as I say, at the moment, given there's only 2 days left of this parliamentary term, I think the focus is very much on building that alliance, that bloc, if you like, of MPs who will operate to ensure that Boris Johnson can't do anything reckless with our country.
Isn't the Labour Party getting rather left behind in this whole debate on Europe? We've got the Conservative Party moving in a clear direction, making their leader and Prime Minister the man who led the Leave campaign. And on the other side, we've got the Liberal Democrats firmly making it clear where they stand on another referendum and on Brexit. And Labour, you know, flips around. We don't really know what you think.
Well, two answers to that, two ways to meet that challenge. The first is to say that we've now been very clear that given the mess that we're in, whatever the outcome, there has to be a further referendum, and we'll campaign for Remain. So there's no ambiguity about that position. But the other position is this, and there's often people say, well, what's the Labour Party doing? I'll tell you what the Labour Party is doing is we're delivering 230 votes in these crucial votes and making the difference. And of course we need to work across party, but there can be no cross-party alliance. There is no chance of defeating Boris Johnson's reckless proposals unless the Labour Party, with those 230 votes, is there in the mix. And that's what we've been doing. Take the Labour Party out of this, and actually we wouldn't have had any effective check on what's going on, because no other party can deliver that number of votes in the right place at the right time.
So what do you think's the most likely, that the UK leaves with a deal, that the UK leaves without a deal, or that the process is somehow put into reverse or suspension?
Well, I think we're going to have to see what happens in the next couple of days. Certainly here in Brussels, and I've been meeting representatives from the Commission, the Parliament, and other politicians from different EU countries. The mood here is to wait and see what Boris Johnson actually says. They're not interested in the rhetoric, and that's all we've had so far. They're not interested in the reckless proposals. They want to say, what is your negotiating position? And just coming and saying you're going to look people in the eye isn't going to wash with seasoned negotiators here. So what's your position? Now, I hope that Boris Johnson is going to set that out tomorrow, and if not tomorrow, Thursday in Parliament, because then we can have a proper discussion about where we go next. But frankly, rhetoric and promises and things said at hustings are all very well for hustings, but now we're in the real world of grown-up negotiations, and we need grown-up negotiating position from Boris Johnson.
Keir Starmer, thank you very much indeed for